During this government shutdown, President Trump is turning his attention to funding earmarked for projects in Democratic states. To break down the implications and offer some perspective, we're joined tonight by Brooks and Capehart. That's New York Times columnist David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart of MSNBC. It's always great to see you both. So, Jonathan, Democrats have long railed against shutdowns, but many of those same Democrats are now backing this one. Senator Schumer, who was on this program back in March, he said the country avoided disaster when he voted to keep the government open. Republicans are calling that out and saying it's hypocritical. In your view, why isn't it?
Well, one, we're talking about a shutdown caused by Republicans not wanting to do something on health care. I mean, you can argue whether this is the time to do it. Democrats have decided this is the time to do it, especially since letters are going out next month to consumers on the the Affordable Care Act exchanges that their premiums are going to go up. And then they're going to go up starting in the new year. And so Democrats are saying, well, we've got to do something to help the American people. And the Republicans basically said no. And I'm sorry, at the same time that they're saying no, they're also saying, just trust us. Let's just reopen the government, and then we'll talk about this. The problem with that is, one, Democrats don't trust them, nor should they. Two, there are so many other things that that Congress has to get done in the 7 weeks before the end of the year. The NDAA, which is a must-pass defense bill. Appropriations bills. Punchbowl reported this morning that there have been no talks between Democrats and Republicans about the appropriations bills that will be needed to fund the government once they get past this. And so you think that Democrats should trust Republicans, that they're going to take care of it later? No. And so I think that, we can argue whether this is the good time to do this and whether Democrats should do it. I argue Democrats absolutely should do it because they're doing it for all the right reasons.
And one of those reasons Democrats say is about extending Obamacare subsidies with premiums set to skyrocket. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, he shared this example on social media. A Georgian earning $65,000 a year would see premiums jump from about $300 a month to over $950 a month. David, shouldn't the party that controls the House, the Senate, and the White House do more to end a shutdown than just dig in?
No. I hate the fact that we're here. So here's what happened. In 2020, the Democrats won an election, and they have power. And so in 2021, they passed a bill which further increased the health insurance subsidies as part of Obamacare. And when they did it, they passed it to sunset in 2025. In 2024, the Republicans win an election. And guess what? They passed legislation that go with their policy priorities, and they let the subsidies sunset. And so what do you do if you're in a democracy? You go to the voters, if you're a Democrat, and you say, their policy is terrible. What Senator Warnock just said. Their policy is terrible. Next time, why don't you vote for us? That's how a democracy functions. But apparently we don't live in a functioning democracy anymore. Now, if we don't like the policy that the majority party passes, we shut down the government. And I'm not blaming Democrats solely, but I just think this pattern is so terrible for our democracy, is so terrible, but we just hear it for the air traffic controllers in every organization. You can imagine if your own organization suddenly lost all funding every once in a while. And what it does is it further erodes the norms that really control our democracy so we can have a boxing match in politics. Politics ain't beanbag. But we don't bring a knife, and we don't bring a gun, and we don't bring AK-47, or what it be. And that's what our politics is descending into, and it's very bad for democracy.
Elections have consequences.
They do have consequences, but descending into, we're there. I mean, that road is rutted. And if you want to go back in history, let's talk about, eroding norms. Senator Mitch McConnell, when he was majority leader, stole a Supreme Court seat and said it should be up to the American people to decide the next president, and that person gets to pick the Supreme Court justice. Successfully kept it from then Judge Merrick Garland. But then, when the shoe was on the other foot and President Trump was in the White House, what did he do? Ram through Justice Amy Coney Barrett a week before the election. So we're already deep into this rutted place that we're in.
Wait 2 months.
2 months. Is there an opening here for Democrats on this particular issue of health care? Because that helped them flip, 40 seats back in 2018 when the Republicans tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Does that resonate the same way in the shutdown?
Well, I think it will resonate, maybe not in the short term, But I think politically speaking, just in crass political terms, that when those letters go out next month, and then when the premiums skyrocket, so when people get those bills starting in January, folks will forget about the shutdown, assuming the government has been reopened, but they will remember, oh, wait, Democrats were hammering away at this. They were complaining about this during that time. And I think, again, in crass political terms, this could inure to Democrats' benefit. Could.
If you were advising the White House, the David Brooks consultancy, what would you tell them to do? How should they handle this?
I would tell them all to resign. But, I put myself in their shoes. Not what David Brooks wants, as important as that is, but what MAGA wants. And so they're a part of a conservative movement that for the last 50 years has said government is too big, the left has too much control. And they have wanted to defund the left since Ronald Reagan. And they haven't really done it. Donald Trump comes in term 2 and starts to do it under Doge. That sort of calms down after Elon Musk leaves town and all the tech bros go back to Silicon Valley. But now, Russell Vought, the budget director, is going to restart the engines. And he's going to restart them in a way that we have never seen before. He's been waiting his whole life for this moment. And I do not think that giving him the keys to the kingdom is a smart idea. But if you're MAGA and you've been trying to pursue a 40-year project to defund the left, you're going to take advantage of this moment. And so a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. And what MAGA gets right is that the civil service is somewhat left. But what they get wrong is they're not very left. Most of them are good, hardworking, honest people who just want to do their job. And Russell Vought is about to take a chainsaw to them.
What about that, Jonathan? The president, Russ Vought, seeing opportunity in this moment. I think President Trump used the phrase unprecedented opportunity to dismantle government, to defund the left, as David says.
They're already doing it. They've been doing it. They've already promised to, fire 140,000 workers. And so they're taking advantage of a crisis. Anyone who thinks that the administration, from the president to Russell Vought, that they will have some sort of pang of conscience and, keep federal workers where they are fooling themselves. It's right there in Project 2025, the 900-page document that then candidate Trump tried to disavow and said, I have nothing to do with it. And then this week, if not yesterday, sends out a Truth Social post saying, Russell Vought is going to do this. He of Project 2025 fame. Anyone who has read Project 2025 is not surprised by anything that has happened since January 20th. It's right there in black and white.
One of the most striking moments of the weekend of President Trump's second term so far was this unprecedented gathering of top military brass. You had the president, the defense secretary gathered in Virginia. Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, said the goal was to restore the warrior ethos. The president spoke for more than an hour. Here's some of what both of them said.
The era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops.
Well, America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. We were not respected with Biden. They looked at him falling downstairs every day. Every day the guy's falling downstairs. We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military.
What lessons should we draw from that? Are there any parallels to the way the president, the defense secretary are seeking to use the military?
Well, it's all show business. These two guys are TV personalities, not that there's anything wrong with that. But they're using the troops as show business. And what do they care about when they think about the Department of Defense, or whatever we're calling it these days? They think about dudes in dresses, DEI, and fat troops. China is not thinking about that stuff. They are out deploying us in submarines. They're out deploying us in military technology. They've got more troops. They've got more spending. And they are a world threat. And if something terrible happens in the next 2 years, people are going to look at this rally and say, what the hell were those guys talking about? And to me, it's just the incredible shallowness and triviality of that kind of showbiz performance.
Is this the moment that accelerates the erosion of the long-standing norm of an apolitical military?
I don't know if it's the moment. simply because, I think maybe the president wanted to, jump in on this meeting because he's used to going to the military academies where the troops are a little less trained in how they are supposed to act and respond to political speeches, and particularly to the president. And I seem to remember, I think it was the Naval Academy, where you had the cadets behind him hooting and hollering and cheering and applauding and laughing. But the folks in that room at the Pentagon were not cadets. They were generals and admirals with decades worth of experience. And they know that their job is to be apolitical, no matter who the president is. And the series of one-liners that they both threw out there thinking they were going to get applause, and they didn't, certainly unsettled the president, probably unsettled the defense secretary, but it didn't unsettle me because it told me that the senior leadership of the military, the folks in uniform, still hold true to their training and what their role is in our democracy. And I don't want to let one of the comments that was said in that Satmash of the president, where he said he should use American cities as training grounds. The most dangerous thing I have heard, among many things, come out of the president's mouth, that he's telling those admirals and generals that they should have their troops who are trained to fight wars and kill other people in other countries on battlegrounds, that they should turn their guns on American citizens. It's appalling, and I wish we had a Congress that worked, that would say, you know what? We need to bring some people in and have some hearings on this because this is unacceptable. It's undemocratic.
And I was going to raise that point, the incitement to violence against Americans from the president there.
Yeah, I mean, I happen to live right where the National Guardsmen are walking around every day, and I frankly don't mind them. They're nice. They look bored. But Jonathan's right on the overall message. There's a reason military people are not police people. And police are making a mistake of trying to be too military, frankly. And so to cross that line where you have people who are actually trained to shoot howitzers walking around Park Avenue or Grant Park in Chicago, it's just, it's crossing the line.
David Brooks, Jonathan Capehart, have a good weekend.
Thanks, Jeff. You too.